watched this episode of a web series. Actually, it's a YouTube channel, I think, called The Magic in You, Magical Discussions with Magical People from Frances Billinghurst, it's Alexandrian priestess in Australia. And it was an episode that was very, very interesting because it was done with a guest that we have been friends for a long time now. The episode is called Galatea, Initiated Witch and Priestess from the original London Coven. It was a very interesting episode, don't you think?
Absolutely. I think it's always fantastic to be able to listen to someone who was there, right, at the
Yeah,
very beginnings of our tradition, of the
yeah.
Alexandrian tradition.
Not really Genesis, because the Genesis was in Manchester, right? So they had the first coven they had was in Manchester. And then I think that Galatea came at the London Coven when she was I think she was 18. She was very,
18.
very young,
Yeah,
right?
18. Yeah.
Yeah, 18. And so she did this interview with Frances Billinghurst, and she touches on a couple of things that I think that it's worthwhile we kind of like touch base on as well. She talks about her, if you haven't seen this, you should listen to it. It's very, very good. Just go into Magic in You on YouTube and you will find it. So she talks about her beginning, the first encounter with witchcraft, what she thought about it, and she was 16 at the time, and all of that. But then one of the things that come up, and I think that it's very interesting, is the label, right? The Alexandrian label, because they weren't known as Alexandrians, and I talked about this in my book, and I also talk about this several times. They were just witches. There was no label of Alexandrian or
Or
Gardnerian.
Gardnerian, right, for that
Yeah,
matter.
yeah, yeah. So, and she says they were just Alex's witches, and I talk about this as well. We didn't label. She says we didn't label the Gardnerians either.
No.
They were just people who didn't like us much.
So great. Because she says that, yeah, they didn't get Alexandrian as a name until Stuart Farrar's What Witches Do,
Yes,
which was
which is a
published
little yeah,
after, right? Which was published after her initiation.
yeah, yes. So, she talks also about, her experience as a coven maiden in the London Coven.
What I also thought was really fascinating, yes, her young age, right? The fact that she was initiated at 18. Here in the
Yeah,
United States, it's like 21, and that's because of wine, primarily. So
yeah,
by 18, and then to say, it's right, she saw Alex on television, right, at 16, and that really
mhm,
sort of sparked her interest.
mhm.
And it really is true that this kind of visual media sparks something in that person. And I think we've both talked about this looking at the old photographs from the 1970s are just so evocative and they call to you in a way. But previous to that, I love how Galatea also said that she was always like enamored and interested in religion even as a
Mm,
young child.
mm.
Even though her parents, right, weren't necessarily all that religious, and she would even like sneak to Catholic mass because she loved the ceremony, the incense, which she like smelled for the first time, and the robes. And I think that also speaks to vocation. And we talk about this all the time, right? That she exhibited vocation at a very, very young, at a very, very young age. So it's a really amazing backstory to Galatea.
And, you have to understand that she has been initiated for a long time, and the point of view that she stands on, it's a little different from some of the witches of today because she stands on the point of view of the initiate of the Linen Coven, which is a little bit different from what was then developed afterwards with Maxine
Yeah.
and the Temple of the Mother. But she looks at this from a point of view that few can actually do now because either they left the craft or they, just way doing other things. But this is an interesting interview because it is a person that was there that knew Alex directly that was trained by him. And she also differentiates and she says that American Alexandrianism and well, American witches and English witches have very different perspectives on how to get along, how to work together or not. I mean, she says that it's very different. There's a very different approach from one side to the other.
Yeah, she said, right, it's much more integrated,
Yes,
in
in UK.
England, where you could have Gardnerians and Alexandrian in the same circle, which, I can't speak for everyone here in the United States, but I think that's very, very rare. Certainly there are guest situations, right, where Gardnerians can guest into an Alexandrian circle and vice versa, but I've never really seen Alexandrians and Gardnerians coming together for, every Sabbath rite or whatnot. So certainly, right, there's a divide here in the States.
There is, and it's as I said to you in the previous episode, there was once upon a time there was a gathering of Alexandrians and Gardnerians and Alexandrians in Maine.
Mhm,
But what she's referring to is there is people actually working together. They are from different traditions
mhm,
in covens that they come together and they worship and they do magic together. But they're from Gardner and Alexander, and it doesn't matter how the circle is cast, how who is coming in, because they're all initiates. They're all considered to be initiates of
yeah,
the craft in the UK. My experience with this gathering is that the rituals were not really specifically Gardnerian or Alexandrian. It was a little toned down version so that it could accommodate both. And that's not what she's talking about. She's talking probably about real craft, of either one or the other, and then they are actually doing whatever it is that they're doing, but they're doing together without restraint, right?
yeah. She's talking about, like, not seeing a difference between Gardnerian and
Yeah.
Alexandrian.
Yeah. In the UK, she says that in America there's a clear divide between Alexanders and the Gardnerians, and then she says, but not here, meaning UK. We still just consider ourselves witches.
Yeah, but about practice though, right? Because she
Yes.
says, right, that there's not much difference between in practice between
Yes.
Gardnerians and Alexandrians, which we said very differently in our last podcast, right? And I was like
Yes.
adamant. I'm like, if you walk into a Gardnerian circle and don't see the difference, then there's a problem in your training.
Yes.
So is that do you think that's also because of, the changes that Maxine made in Temple of the Mother, where there
Well,
is more differentiation between.
yes. So when we talk about our experience in this podcast,
Yeah.
we always talk about that.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
always talk about,
Yeah.
we're very clear about what we do and how we do it. We're really these are the teachings of Maxine,
Yeah.
and from the Temple of the Mother, and we do follow that set of structure. If somebody that was initiated, and don't forget that the first person that brought in Alexandrian witchcraft into the United States of America was there in the 70s. So he
Yes.
wasn't in the Temple of the Mother.
No. Yeah.
Um, so it was a different way of doing things. And some people say that the rituals were very brief. They were not very long. They would do the whatever they had to do, and then they would go to the pub, and that was the report that I had from other people that were there as well.
Yeah.
But it was a very interesting thing, because when you say in America, okay, so we don't really see it. If you go to another person and you don't recognize, it could be that, because sometimes, even if it is either London Coven training or Temple of the Mother training, it is vastly different what Gardnerians do,
Yeah.
even though London Coven is probably a little bit more closer to what the Gardnerians do, because it was not really, or it doesn't pertain to the training of Temple of the Mother, which, they developed the whole thing for years and years and years and years. So obviously there was a bigger distance between the practices. But still, when we talk about this, I don't really recognize that we have discouraged ourselves 5,000 times,
Yeah.
because that is Gardnerian,
Yeah.
and that's what they do. And that's fine, that's totally fine, but this is the thing, using tools, we do use the tools, and those tools are actually used the same way that they were in the Manchester, the London, and then Temple of the Mother. The tools don't really vary in their usage. So when you see this happening, that's what we mean.
Yeah.
I know actually some Alexandrian covens that do scourge a lot, which is odd,
Yeah.
odd.
Yeah.
There is this thing now, and we talk about this, that there's a couple of things. We talked about the velocity of society nowadays. We talked about how people are ego comes in and then people change the rules and change whatever it is and make up their own rules about things. And it's very simple. It's really very simple. You should just work what's given to you and carry on.
Yeah.
But some people really kind of distort this. So
I like when she
this
says too that, back in the 1970s that the craft was very, very secret.
it
Uh,
was very
yeah,
secret.
where you just did not have this information. So I think today you can go to any Barnes and Noble or bookstore and pick up a whole slew of books on the craft. And there are podcasts like ours and
Yes.
YouTube channels, right, all dedicated to it. So I think, a lot of seekers now have built up a lot of understanding and misunderstanding about the craft and come in with a lot of sort of perceived notions of what it's about. And I think ego becomes problematic in that way, because I think there are people out there, I've met them, who have read some books and watched some YouTube videos and listened to some podcasts and then think they know what craft is all about, and then challenge you. And I'm like, okay, but you're not even an initiate. So right, so it's a definitely a different time, different
It
world.
is a different time, and I like her perspective because it is, she brings in what really was very genuine at the time and
Yeah.
what her experience was, and clearly she had a very direct experience, and for us that we weren't there,
No, I wish I were. I was
I
born too
wasn't
late.
even in the Temple of the Mother. But, it was, I wish I were,
Yeah.
but this is the thing. We kind of have the sense of things from their words and from their experiences,
Yeah.
and that's why it's important to listen to this as well. But yes, so then she was the maiden of the coven because sometimes Maxine wasn't available. Maxine at the time, I think she had, the children.
Yeah.
And, it was a little bit more not it was a little bit more busy, so she took that place when she could, and that's it. The other thing that she says here, it's very interesting. She says, "Everyone participated, and initiations were frequent," she says. "Sometimes so many that we run out of quartz."
Oh my gosh.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
So as long as there was a third degree present, first degrees could initiate under guidance. This is very important because this is an Alexandrian thing that I don't think there is. This doesn't happen in Gardnerian, I'll tell you right now. So that's, I think, a very interesting thing that we talked about
Y-
as well,
Yeah, that
various times, right?
yeah, right. That Alex, fully trained his witches as competent witches
Mm.
and first degree. mm, There wasn't like because we see it, especially in the United States, because we're very divisive. In the United States, we see this as like a ranking system.
Right.
And third degree is better than first degree. You want to be in first place. You never want to be in second place. And I love that Galatea spoke about that there really wasn't any hierarchy. All were equal in the circle. And she as a maiden, so she would stand in for the high priestess, but as a first degree, be able to perform all those rituals and duties like a third degree would do. So
Yes.
therefore, in Alexandrian, when we say this a lot, right, that we train our witches to be fully fledged witches, and there are only just a few things, right, just a few things that a first degree cannot perform, and must be performed by a third degree. And she said it that not many people were just content, right? Were content with being first degree. They were fulfilled, and there are Alexandrian covens out there that are very Gardnerian in the sense of that they do maintain these hierarchies.
Yes.
And then they're like, well, no, you can't learn that until your third degree. No, you can't learn that until your third degree. No, you can't learn that to third degree, which is a red flag for any seekers out there. That's not really our tradition. And I love that Galatea said that really is something that Alex brought in.
And I think it's the expression is it's above your degree,
Yeah, it's above your degree.
um,
It's
which is horrible,
horrible. Yeah,
terrible.
exactly. Horrible. Yeah.
Um,
Then just go sit in a pew, right, in a church, if that's how you want to run, right? That's not our religion is experiential for all,
yes,
right?
yeah. And so I thought that it was very interesting that she talked about also initiation, and she brings in a very interesting point,
Yes,
which
she
is
does.
initiation is a magical rite. It's
Mm.
not just symbolic. It's
Yeah.
intended to change you. So if it doesn't, it didn't work. And she says sometimes real initiation can be disruptive.
Mhm.
And that's very important to understand because it does. And we talked about this as actually it hurts sometimes, like when you first get glasses and realize, oh, that's what the world looks like.
Yeah.
That's what she said on the podcast. And but it's a very interesting thing because people think that oh, it's just in your mind or it's just it isn't really. It's more than that, and it can have a very deep impact on your own life. Because this is the thing. When you ask for initiation, you are putting forward your own will to become a priest or a priestess.
Yeah.
That is your first act of magic.
Yeah.
And we hear you. So does the craft. You said it.
Yes. And and I love that yeah, 2 things, right? So Galatea had said it in a really sort of nice way where it was like perceiving the world differently, very positively. That's not always the case, right? So it can be an extremely uncomfortable experience after initiation. But I do absolutely agree with her that there is a shift. And I think she's right. I think she's right. Like if that shift doesn't happen, then the initiation didn't take for whatever reason. And of course, after initiation, it's like a mirror, right? So there's like a mirror that's been put in front of you, where you are constantly being reflected, not in an egotistical way, right? But in a reflection in terms of how do you improve. And then you said the craft, right? The craft has heard you. And I think Galatea sort of brings that up too, that initiation initiates in you into like the egregore of the craft, right? Like the craft is a entity in and of itself.
I think that that's very real.
Yes.
People think that this is not real. It is very real. The craft itself, it is very much, egregore.
Yeah.
But it is that word. It's so funny. Because I just talked to somebody that's egregore. Um, because looks like a very big word, but it is very, very real. And it does things that do happen when you manifest your will, things do happen. This is about will and manifested will. So if you are asking for initiation, think through 30 times before you
Yeah.
do it because it will change. Probably will it is intended to change, right?
It is.
So what really is very interesting is that piece that she says about past lives claims when people say, "Well, I was initiated in a past life." I
Oh my
don't
God.
need to
That
be
was so
initiated.
funny. So funny what she says. Yes.
And she said that she told this to Fred Lamont. Frederick Lamont was a high priest of one of Gardner's covens. So she says that he said he said to her, "Well, if somebody was a brain surgeon in a past life but hadn't gone to medical school now, would you let them operate in your brain?"
Yeah.
I thought that was brilliant. Competence doesn't pass through lives. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
And a past life it has past in it, doesn't it? It's
Exactly.
past.
Yeah.
Let it be. Don't use it in this one. It's past.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't be holding on into your, past
I know.
life.
it's just one of those, like, it's like, again, it's like that ego, it's like that competition in the sense of like, well, I don't need initiation because I've been a witch for many, many past lives. And so it's almost like saying, I'm born into this. I don't need this. Who's better than whom?
Yes.
Right?
I
It's an
think
ego thing.
it
And
is an
while
ego
we're saying, like, you don't have to be initiated, absolutely not. You don't have to be an initiate. You can practice witchcraft. There's many ways, right, to practice witchcraft. But initiation does a very specific thing. And if that's what you want, then that's what you're asking for. Doesn't make me better than anyone.
I had somebody that actually came to me for initiation, for a conversation, and she actually said that to me. She said, "Well, but I was initiated in Wicca," and I said, "What tradition?" And she said, "Well, it's just it's not a tradition. It's just like a group of people that were already." Well, but that's not. We don't really
Yeah.
recognize, and it's not according to what we do, so you need to go through an initiation if that's the case. And she says, "Well, I don't understand why, because I already did." And then I explained to her, sometimes we don't really do reinitiations if the person is already initiated in either Gardnerian, Alexandrian, or whatever, and they went through. The reason we don't do this, it's because, and Alex didn't do this to Gardnerians either, because he accepted equivalents and totally accepted as witches who was initiated, regardless if it was Gardnerian or not. Um, that same thought process didn't really assist the Americans, I don't think.
Yeah.
And so we have. This is why we have so many dual tradition people
Yeah.
in America. That is, it's very strange, but at the same time, sometimes it's circumstantial. Shouldn't judge for that, but sometimes it's ego.
Yeah.
I want to know everything in every which way.
Yeah. And
Uh, you know,
and just to go back to the past
past
lives. I
lives.
love when Maxine talks about past lives and she's just like, "Yeah, I was a fisherman's wife and that's why I hate fish today." So it's just like because so many people have these ideas of grandeur, right? That you are
Oh,
like,
everybody was
I was
Cleo.
a high priest of the temple of Ra. Do you know what
Yes,
you know what I
yes. Everybody was Cleopatra. Everybody
Exactly.
was
And I'm like,
the
I'm
king.
so sorry you were just a peasant, just trying to
You were
survive.
just cutting onions in the kitchen.
Exactly.
Um,
Yes.
and the other thing is like wisdom. People are not more. I mean, it's a past life.
Yeah.
It's this. It's also this idea that when people die, they become like super wise. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't. They
Nope.
don't care. They don't. You
Yeah.
know, they're not wiser just
No.
because they are. If somebody is a horrible person, they continue to be a horrible person up to death.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, there's these passage of things that people think that there's something happens after. No, there is no, yeah,
Yeah.
person is the same, or the spirit continues to be horrible. Anyway, so with the same thing. She talks about also about the role of independence, about what Alex's innovations were, and she talks about that he emphasized independence and self-agency in his witches. So they were required at the time to do all of the work, really, not only the work within the coven, but also their own work.
Yeah.
And we talked about this. Remember that we talk about the training when people actually think that the training is only on the coven, it is only done in the coven. But sometimes there are things that you do by yourself. Nobody can do it for you. Journaling is one of them, for instance, by the way, that you have to do. And it's nobody's business what you write in that journal. Not even your teacher should
Yeah.
see that. But I think that there's things that the initiate should do. It should be curious. It should want to learn more. It should have the not just sitting there like in a churchgoer, right? Because it's like, oh, okay, so like, give me the words,
Exactly. Yeah.
and I'll write it down. And the other thing is about, and this remind me of the copying of the Book of Shadows. People think that it's so rare that people don't really go back to their Book of Shadows and look at it and develop their own understanding of it. It's just so odd. I know initiates that have never looked, at the Book of Shadows after the copy.
And this is something I think that Brian Kane has brought up in Covendom, and even I think when he guested
Yes.
on our
Yeah,
podcast
yeah.
about, he like made this joke like, do
We
witches
follow
even,
the Book of Shadows.
yeah, do witches even read the Book of Shadows anymore, with a question with a question mark.
Yeah.
It's obvious, yeah, that is a thing, and that's incredibly sad. You really It is a really rich text, and deceivingly simple in some regards, but not
Yes.
in other ways. And that's where we are. We're not a religion of a book per se. We are, but it's not written by prophets or anything like that. But it's a really important. It's fundamental to our practice, and I think
Yes.
every competent witch should really know and develop a relationship with the Book of Shadows.
Yes. So the other thing I think that it's very interesting that we can talk about is that she talks about Alex's innovations and she talks about the self independence and the freedom. So this brings freedom to us and independence from everything, really. And she said witches in that were initiated at the time wanted to cast their own circles and they were allowed to as well. They were independent, she says. So we were independent, she said, as self, realized and self empowered witches by Alex. And you just said it. We do train witches to be self sufficient. Mm, that didn't really happen in the Gardnerian tradition. They have a different way of training. They have a different way of looking at this. It looks like there is more control in their side
Yeah.
on their side, and but she's very clear, his witches were independent, what she said,
Yeah. And to develop, and maintain a solitary practice, right? And that's
Yes,
that's
yes,
something that we
which is
absolutely encourage. I would
why would
argue
you
that
not,
once in
right?
I'm
Why would
sorry?
you not? Why would you
Why
not?
would you not? But some groups want that to controlling groups, would want to shut down, right, one solitary practice. But yeah, to develop your own solitary practice, and just from my own personal experience, my solitary practice actually changed quite a lot once initiated and becoming an Alexandrian initiate. But it is important, right, that you do have a magical practice outside of Coven.
This is not even logical, is it? If you don't really practice by yourself. Because the other thing is like, okay, so I just learned how to cast a circle, right?
Yep.
Now I have to wait for the opportunity in the coven to do it. So I shouldn't be doing it by myself.
No, you should be doing.
And then, so how else am I going to train?
Yeah.
I know how to do. How else am I going to have questions and see how I've done? You know, you should. There is work that the person, the initiate, should be doing. It's
Yeah.
not you're not going to memorize the words. Of course, you're going to memorize the words that you have to say.
Yeah.
So that you're not stuck with pieces of paper in your hand. That's
Yeah.
unheard of. So it's very important, this part, because I think that independence is a very good word. I think freedom as well is a very good word. And that is in this particular piece that she talked about, and Alex's things that he brought in, and Maxine, to those circles. So they weren't independent on their own. I mean, this is if we're talking about first degree, but they are independent to do practices that should be encouraged to be done by themselves so that they can be proficient on it. I mean, why wouldn't they train, at
I know,
home?
yeah, you're absolutely correct, and that's the only way, right? That's the only way to generate questions, right?
Yeah.
When you are doing these practices by yourself at home, it's the only way really to become proficient, at it as well. I know, imagine having to wait before for
Nothing.
Coven to convene, to be able and then to be able to start putting these things in practice. And,
Um,
there are witches
no.
also that are divided about, should initiates have all the tools? Should they not have all the tools? So,
I mean, it's called the witch's tools.
I know.
It doesn't say that it's the first degree or second degree or third degree tools. It
No.
is the witch's tools.
Yeah.
And I just I sometimes I'm flabbergasted by the lack of not understanding even it's not even that, it's like logical thought,
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly. Yep.
evident thought, you know? It is, and they should. They should have their tools, and they should look for them and gather them as they go along. And work them. You need to work those tools. You need to have a perception about those tools, and you need to work on that as well. And you need to work on them in various levels, etc. I mean, there's a lot
There's a lot. Yeah.
of work.
Yep.
Are you sure you want to be initiated?
Exactly. Do you really need this?
But it's a joy to do this. I mean, it is a joy to discover the tools in the book and this and that.
Yeah. And
It's just
she
a
says
joy.
that, right? I love how she says that. She's just like that they
Yeah.
were all so enthusiastic,
Yes.
that they couldn't wait, right, to learn and
Yes.
to
Yeah.
practice.
Yes. It's very interesting because this is the second time that I'm actually hearing this. Yesterday, I had a conversation with one of the elders of our tradition, and that was brought in. That was brought in. The fact that they were so enthusiastic about everything, they were
Yep.
so eager to come again. They actually added one more day to the week where they're met, and they were
Wow.
meeting all every day during the week. So they added the Sunday, but then they thought, maybe not. Because they wanted it so much to be there and to discuss and to experience, and I couldn't wait to do it. I don't think, I mean, nowadays, I think there are a few that are like this, but I find this lack of enthusiasm, don't you? I mean, I
I
don't
do.
think we see this, like, you see, and when you have these covens that come in and they do meet regularly and they do these things and they develop their own craft, when we are it was somebody that told me this, it's very interesting because you can see that in
Yeah.
them. You
Mm.
can see that they did the work. You can feel it, that they are developed coven. And we were talking about this yesterday. But yes, you need to work by yourself. You need to be curious. You need to be eager to learn more. And that is always a good thing. And no, it's not above your degree. So
Exactly.
now uh, she talks about spiritual calling and the goddess, which is very interesting. And I know Galatea for quite a while. I saw a very interesting thing that she did. So cute. I hope that she's listening to this and she's not gonna
Not be
think
upset.
that this is an indiscretion.
Yeah.
But we visit the Buckingham Palace when we went to London, and we went with her, as well, and we loved the experience first time, and then we went the second time. It was just lovely, because, it's such a beautiful place and full of history and, things and absolutely fascinating. And at the entrance of Buckingham Palace, you have I mean, she can't clarify this because I remember, but on one side, there's statues of the gods, and one of the statues is Diana.
Oh.
And it's so interesting because it's just lovely. So she enters and she looks at me with that, look like, "Ah, look." And it's the Lady of the Moon, it's the Lady of the Moon. And then she just blows a kiss to the to
No.
it's so wonderful. But the interesting thing is that this was something that was done such in a spontaneous way that I was a little bit up in the stairs when I saw her doing this, and all of the world, the mundane, touristy world with their microphones in and then their earbuds, and
Yeah.
it was just one moment that was so, um, spontaneous and really felt that it was the contrast of this with all of the buzz around of the touristy people, because it's hundreds, right, that come in.
Absolutely.
It was so interesting to see,
Yeah,
you know?
she's able to, find the sacred in the mundane, right? Or like
Yes.
the sacred interrupts the mundane for that
Yeah.
one, right? For that one moment.
Yes. Yeah. And, going to Galatea with Galatea to the British Museum is an adventure in itself,
Oh, I can imagine.
because she does know how to read
Oh my gosh, does she really hieroglyphics?
hieroglyphs, right, hieroglyphs.
Yeah.
And then she's like going around and pointing to, this is da, 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 da. And then she says, because it says here on the door, look, do you see those three symbols? And
Oh,
like,
wow.
it's so amazing. It's fascinating. And she knows a lot she knows a lot about Egypt. And she said that in an interview. I think she said that she was fascinated by Egypt. And so this is a wonderful thing, the when she talks about the goddess and how um she talks about her, it's with passion, with love, it really is. She has a deep devotion to the goddess, and it's very interesting because she talks about her the day of her initiation, and she says that she asked the goddess for a sign, that she wanted to have a sign from the goddess that she should I do this? Should I actually be initiated and go forward with this? And she did. She
Yeah.
says that it was unmistakable, undeniable, even something undeniable that was given to her, that she knew exactly what to do. So she says our gods are not distant. And that's another thing that it's very interesting to us, because a lot of people take this as a Sunday mass.
Yeah.
They go to Sabbats
Yeah.
and Eshbats, and that's the only thing they don't live the craft on a daily basis. Sometimes they don't really relate that to their mundane. But she does, and she has this relationship with the goddess that it's very, very present,
Yeah.
and it's very beautiful to see.
Yeah, that's the
Diana.
whole point, right? That's the whole point of the craft is to
Yes.
interact with deity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. If you don't, you're missing an opportunity.
You're missing out. And that's why it's a religion, right?
Exactly, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, simplicity in ritual, again, all of these things come back over and over again. Simplicity in ritual, and to become simple and direct
Yeah.
is the goal. And for this, you have a lot of people that, and I have the experience of this for many years, they put things on top of things on top of things on top of things, and we talked about this also off the mic,
Yeah.
that it is and it's layers and layers and layers, when in fact the two paragraphs is all you need. Opportunity
Overcomplicate.
of the direct contact. Do you see what I mean? Because it's so convoluted, and so because you wanted to say this and that and that and that, and that it's the simplicity of things it's very important as well. And but there are people who love, love, love to put all of these other things in, and it works for them, which is great. It's wonderful. I think simple is better.
Yeah, I agree. I think simple is better. We have a tendency, right, overcomplicate things.
Right.
And for me, when something becomes way too labored, way too overcomplicated,
Yeah.
me, that's a quick way to kill all the magic uh,
Yes.
of
Yes.
of the ritual.
Yes. Well, this is the thing. A ritual is a set of actions that are put in motion to talk to your subconscious mind at some level. When you stuff this direct channel with things that are necessary, they might be fantastic and wonderful and beautiful and all of that. But sometimes it depends, because some people do, but for instance, the first degree, this is what I don't do. I think that people with first degrees, they put a lot of things. It should be direct. It should be direct. It should be directed towards that unconscious mind. And if you don't do that, then you're losing that opportunity, and you're never going to go there. Never, because you're now lost in the woods of paperwork.
Exactly. Literally.
Literally.
Yeah.
And now, and the other thing is papers in hand. Papers in hand. You should know your rituals by heart.
Yeah.
You should know
which
your
is really difficult if you have long, long rituals.
very. And then, of course, if you have papers in hand, then you won't be doing what you should be doing, which is the word should accompany the tone, the action, etc. And all of this should be coordinated by yourself, which you can't do if you're constantly looking at a page and finding yourself in the text and also changing pages and making all of that noise that breaks any concentration or
Yeah.
any magic that is going
Yes.
on. So it cuts like a knife and it kills it sometimes. Sometimes there are other people. I mean, and this is my opinion. I mean, I don't know. I love ritual. I really do. And I'm very fond of text and things. I mean, I come from the theater, and it's of course, and I love ceremonial things. So I do, I really do. I love movement. I love all of those things. I love dance and etc. But you need to think about what is that you want to do. What is it that you want to do? Don't be redundant, because why? Why are you wasting your time? You already said it.
Yeah.
It's llamas.
Yeah.
We know.
Exactly.
You don't need to do, and I'm thinking about a particular example of this, not in America actually, of somebody that it said that it was llamas, and then it said it again, and then it said that it said it again, and it's like, really? Do we really need to know 500 times?
Yeah.
Um, and so that kills it. So it becomes boring, kills the magic, and that's my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
But,
I agree.
you know, if you wanna if you wanna have, like, and there's other things that you can actually do for that. There's other traditions that really go on and on and on and on. And that's another method, but they have their own structure. Ours is a little bit, I think, a little bit more direct. Well, it should
Agree.
be a little bit. Um, yeah, so simplicity. And then there is another thing that she talks about, and she quotes actually during Valiente, but then she says, "Ritual is beautiful. It engages every part of you, but it doesn't need to be overcomplicated."
Yeah.
This is exactly what. So then she talks about materialism in the craft, which is a very interesting thing. What do you think
Oh,
about?
well, I know, right? Because she
Be
talks
here.
about
This is the second part of the episode that we are doing because we are going to be here 2 more hours for this one. Yeah. What do you think about this material?
yeah, so she's literally says that there's this major push, right, in witchcraft in general to buy more robes, to buy more crowns, to buy more incense, statues,
Oh,
swords, knives, right?
yeah.
Chalices, all those things. And absolutely,
Yes.
the craft has become very commercial and materialistic. I am prone to this as well. It is really difficult for me to pass up something really fabulous. However, I've gotten better, actually. I've gotten better in
You
the last
did. You
yeah,
did.
in the last years. But it's
Yeah.
hard, right? It's hard. And she goes on to say, that Alec told her, and this is a quote from Galatea, that there will come a time when you don't need any of this anymore. And she said that she had arrived at that moment where you don't need all of those tools, all of those robes, all of that incense, and that you're able to connect just through you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is very important. The lesson is less is more.
Yeah.
And we all have work that we do in our own covens, and we know that this is the thing. There is very few covens, I think, in my opinion, the ones that I know of, and I know a couple of them. From all of the years that I have been in this, I've seen one thing that is over and over again that happens. It's unpurposed coven.
Hmm. What do you mean by that?
What I mean is they don't know what is the purpose of their work.
Ah, yeah.
So they're basically doing Sabbats and Eshbats. It's a worshiping coven,
Yeah.
celebratory, but there's no other work. So there's no development of the initiate. There's no training. There's no hermetics. There is nothing that, I mean, you might not want to do hermetics, but the thing is that if there's no purpose, They don't have a purpose. It's very important to have a purpose
Mhm.
because, as I said, when you ask for initiation, that is the purpose. You want to go and have an initiate. You want to be initiated into craft. You feel that you belong there. You want to be there. That is an intention, the purpose.
Yeah.
You want to learn. You want to do that. Then you get into a coven that has nothing. There's no purpose. Okay, so now what? And now you have an initiate that feels that he is or she is floating, like
Yeah.
buoying around without any, they don't know because they don't have any purpose. A coven should have a purpose. It should have, the work should have a purpose, not the coven, but the work should have a purpose. They should be working something, either for development of their members or whatever it is that they wanted to do. But most of the covens that I have been in contact with, they don't. They
Yeah.
actually don't have a purpose. Yeah, which is sad, I think. What do you think about this?
Well, I think that applies to all aspects of life. And this is like one of those big questions that people ask themselves, what is my purpose? And I think it's part of your job to figure that out. I think we
Mhm.
all should have purposes and we all should have goals. And I think it's perfectly fine if a coven is going to convene and they're just worshiping circles. That could be their
Mhm.
purpose, do you know? But I understand that there should be some type of goal orientation to that coven, and then initiates trained accordingly,
Yeah.
that right to that goal to be aligned in that way.
Otherwise, there is no purpose.
Yeah.
Anyone can do, and this is what, when I look at, we're talking about Galatea, and we're talking about London Covenant, and we're talking about Temple of the Mother and all of that. When I look to these covens, I certainly see a purpose on
Yeah.
them, meaning like they really worked with purpose. Um, and it changed and varied from different times and different intuitions of the coven itself, and depending on the people they have. But looking at those, y- y- I wanted to not emulate, but I wanted to make sure that I have a purpose, always
Mhm.
working with a purpose,
Yeah.
an intention, if you
Yeah.
will. But I don't see that very often.